I'm Sarah Ann.
And I'm Marcus. And we're here to show you how you can be a better driver by following techniques that keep driver safety top of mind.
You know what one of the biggest problems is?
What's that?
Most people think they're already good drivers, but statistics show there are well over 1 million traffic-related fatalities worldwide each year. And if you count all of the collisions, it numbers into the hundreds of millions.
Well, I know I am a good driver.
Really?
Yeah.
And how do you know this?
No accidents. Yeah, it must be all those other drivers who are responsible for all those collisions.
Okay. Well, it is true that one person couldn't possibly be responsible for all of the millions of collisions that happen every year. But let me ask you this.
Okay.
Have you ever spilled a drink in your lap while you were driving?
Maybe.
Have you, while driving, ever felt around in your floorboard for something you dropped, like your sunglasses or phone?
I mean, I doubt it. I mean, that's reckless, right? Surely not.
My point is, many, if not most drivers are out there doing practically everything except paying attention to driving.
Well, then it's a good thing we are here. I mean, we can't control what other drivers are doing, but we can teach the good viewers here how to develop street smarts in distracted worlds.
There's no shortage of dangerous situations, and not just the ones involving other drivers. There's bad weather and hazardous road conditions, and people doing risky things like driving on flooded roadways.
Or driving drunk, or driving while fatigued. I mean, people do all kinds of foolish things when they drive. And you know how many people think they're going to be in a collision?
Probably about 0. Not many people wake up in the morning and say, you know what would be a great thing to do today? Get into a vehicle collision.
No one wants or expects to have a motor vehicle collision, yet collisions are the #1 cause of death on the job. Not only that, if you have an incident while driving a company vehicle, you could lose your job too.
Yet drivers keep having vehicle collisions.
And to add insult to injury, 95% of the causes of these collisions are based on human error and might have been avoided.
We can be our own worst enemies when it comes to driving, so it's a good thing vehicles are getting safer.
That's right. Auto manufacturers have figured out us humans can be unpredictable drivers. So they've added some really useful driver assist features to new vehicles.
These features aren't foolproof, but they can help today's driver avoid some collisions.
There's also no substitute for the skills we're going to teach you in this course. For instance, a driver with good seeing skills might spot a problem ahead on the road before the technology does, which affords them critical extra seconds to consider options and react appropriately.
A person with just average seeing skills might benefit more from the technology alerting them of possible danger. But if they wait until the alert goes off, they have less time to react and possibly fewer options for avoiding a collision.
Yeah, it's like a partnership between you and your technology. Take the blind area assist. It's great if it's operational and the driver notices the alert, which reminds the average driver to check mirrors more often than before the alert went off. But by that time, the vehicle is probably already occupying space in your blind spot.
If you are already checking your mirrors frequently, you have noticed a car come up from behind you.
Yeah, and if the car had been swerving in and out of traffic without signaling, you'd be able to guess that he's probably going to swerve into the open space in front of you, too, without signaling.
Another helpful technology is the electronic stability control feature. This can often help the driver who suddenly takes an off-ramp at too high of a speed. But what it doesn't do is protect them from the mistakes of other drivers. It may take decades for the other cars that share the road with you to have the latest in collision avoidance technology. Until then, you're at the mercy of other drivers who might not be able to react to your sudden urge to take the next exit.
But if you have developed superior driving habits, you'll see your off-ramp in plenty of time to make a safe exit.
And you'll be able to anticipate the surprises and avoid the mistakes of other drivers.
Sarah Ann, I'm beginning to detect a pattern here. If you learn how to be a better driver, you're going to do a better job of predicting other drivers' behaviors, seeing potential hazards up ahead on the road, and having the time, space, and visibility to make decisions, react appropriately, and avoid a collision in the first place. The technology is just an added measure of security.
You got it. The goal is to seek out space, a space cushion for your vehicle and better visibility for you, which together means you'll have more time to see, think, and act to avoid a collision.
And what's even better is that when you learn the Smith system, you'll establish driving habits that will work for you on the job. whether or not you have driver assist technology.
In fact, for more than 6 decades, the Smith system has been used by some of the world's largest companies to keep their drivers safe behind the wheel. And not just on the job. Adopting these habits will help you steer clear of collisions anytime you drive.
So let's take a look at the first of the 5 keys. Aim high in steering.
Aim high in steering means that you are looking farther up the road than other drivers.
To do this, simply look up ahead to where your vehicle will be 15 seconds from now. Depending on your speed, this could be a couple of blocks or up to a quarter mile.
We call this eye lead time. Looking 15 seconds in front of you gives you time to identify potential problems and take steps to avoid them.
It's also important to know what is going on around you, which brings us to the next key. Get the big picture.
That means seeing more around you than other drivers by noticing what is happening beside and behind your vehicle. To achieve this goal, it's important to maintain the proper following distance at all times. The best way to do this is to keep your eyes moving, which happens to be the 3rd key.
This key will help you remain more alert than other drivers. Instead of staring straight ahead, constantly scan across your field of vision and check your mirrors frequently. Your surroundings will be constantly changing, but by keeping your eyes moving, you can keep track of what's happening and have time to react in case there is a problem.
Putting together the first 3 keys is what we mean by good seeing skills. You're aiming high and looking ahead a minimum of 15 seconds. You're getting the big picture around you, and your eyes are constantly scanning your surroundings, looking for signs of trouble.
The more you practice good seeing skills, the more things you'll notice. And you'll be in a good position to exercise key 4. Leave yourself an out. Drivers who use this key plan ahead better than other drivers.
This means give yourself a cushion of space around your vehicle, knowing how big it is and where it is. It's like a safety zone that gives you room for your occasional mistakes as well as the mistakes of others, plus an escape route if the unexpected happens.
Where your out is will change according to the traffic and situation. But being aware of where your out is at any given time can make the critical difference between having a collision and avoiding one.
The 5th and final key is to make sure they see you. We hope that other drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists are paying attention, but you can't count on it. Making eye contact or using your warning devices properly lets another driver, pedestrian, or cyclist at an intersection know that you see them and will let them cross safely.
Or you may need to give a friendly honk at a car drifting into your lane. Use every form of communication at hand to make sure they see you or at least hear you. Always using your turn indicators and keeping your headlights on also helps others see you and lets them know your intentions.
These 5 keys are simple and common sense. They are also very effective. Smith's system has been using these principles for over 60 years to teach drivers how to avoid collisions and stay safe on the road.
Now let's take these 5 keys out into traffic to see how they work to give us space plus visibility plus time, which all adds up to safer driving. Let's meet Ron, our semi-truck driver. When we first join Ron, he's making a right turn at a traffic light. You'll notice as he makes the turn, he moves into the center lane. This helps him establish a better lane position and allows him to create a cushion of space around him. These concepts relate to key number 4, leave yourself an out. Ron is also using key number 1, aim high in steering, to look 15 seconds into his future for any potential problems that may affect him. Because Ron is looking ahead, he notices that the traffic light ahead has turned green. This allows him to adjust his speed so he can continue through the green light without stopping. By doing so, this will help him save fuel and wear and tear on his transmission and his brakes. As we continue down the road, we see that traffic moves around Ron on both sides. Using the shadow of a street light as a marker, we can determine whether Ron has an appropriate following distance. We count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007. This shows that Ron has a great following distance of 7 seconds, which relates to key number 2, get the big picture. As we wait at the traffic light, Ron continues to scan in all directions, looking for any potential hazards. He's also checking his mirrors to see who might be around him. These concepts all relate to key number 2, get the big picture, and key number 3, keep your eyes moving. Notice that when the light changes green, Ron hesitates slightly before moving forward. waiting until he sees the vehicle ahead of him start rolling. In doing so, he creates additional following distance and additional space for his vehicle. This relates to key number 4, leave yourself an out. Looking down the road, we'll again begin to watch for problems in the distance. As we wait at the light and Ron continues to scan, the light turns green and the vehicle ahead begins to move. Ron scans the intersection to the left, to the right, to the left, and continues on ahead. By hesitating, you'll notice how much space Ron has built in front of his vehicle. As other vehicles maneuver around him, he may have a space cushion compromised, but as these vehicles begin to move, his space will again begin to build. By following key number 1, aim high in steering, Ron can see that the next light up ahead has turned red. He begins to brake early, and in doing so, he's notifying the vehicles behind him of what is happening ahead, lessening his chances of having a rear-end collision. Braking early also helps him to maintain forward momentum until the light ahead changes to green. This allows Ron to go back to using his accelerator and roll through the intersection without having to come to a full stop, saving fuel, tires, transmission, brakes, and wear and tear on the engine. As Ron scans the next intersection, he notices a vehicle on the right-hand side preparing for a right turn. By making a convenience lane change to the right lane, Ron prepares himself for the right turn ahead where he'll enter the freeway on-ramp. Here we notice that Ron has stopped and left distance between himself and the limit line. By leaving the extra space, Ron has better vision and fewer chances of striking a pedestrian in the crosswalk should danger come from the rear and he be rear-ended by another vehicle. As the light turns green and other vehicles begin to move, Ron scans the intersection and begins to make his right turn. As he maneuvers onto the on-ramp, Ron moves to the left lane and prepares himself to enter the freeway. He turns on his left turn indicator and looks to the left for an opportunity to enter the freeway safely. Ron chooses to take the next exit, so he adjusts his speed and makes a convenient lane change to move into the proper lane for his exit. Scanning ahead, Ron notices the traffic in the lane in front of him is slowed, so he adjusts his speed early to avoid stopping if possible. Ron also checks his left mirror to watch for any vehicles trying to maneuver into the lane in front of him, and looking off to his right for potential problems in his future. Again, this relates to keys number 1, number 2, and number 3. As Ron merges through the ramp, he looks around into his future and notices traffic merging in from the left side. Ron adjusts his speed to allow the other vehicles to merge seamlessly together. Once Ron merges successfully into the traffic, he continues to pay close attention to vehicles that might come up from the left to squeeze past him. Although Ron is moving very slowly, he keeps a good distance between his vehicle and the vehicle in front. Looking ahead, he glances down onto the freeway he's about to enter and tries to position himself so he can merge into an open gap in traffic without having conflict with approaching vehicles from the rear. Here, Ron chooses to enter the freeway. As Ron looks down the road, he searches for a place for his vehicle to enter the pack of traffic. He notices that on his left side, there are 2 vehicles approaching, and he adjusts his speed accordingly. Here we see Ron signaling to move into the number 3 lane. If you notice, there's a pack of traffic in front of Ron's vehicle, and another pack of traffic behind him. By holding his pace, he lets the pack overtake him, giving him more room and more options for maneuverability. Again, these concepts relate to key number 4, leave yourself an out. Looking ahead, Ron notices a ramp about to merge with him on the freeway. Ron scans to the left to be sure he hasn't escaped, which he does. He also positions himself to avoid any conflict from vehicles that might be entering the freeway from his right. Let's use the shadow ahead to check Ron's following distance, starting 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, and 1007. Ron's got a great following distance of 7 seconds, meaning he's adhering to key number 2, get the big picture. By using key number 1, aim high in steering, Ron looks 15 seconds into the future and notices a problem on the right-hand shoulder. Ron signals and begins to maneuver himself to the center lane by making a convenient lane change to create more space between his vehicle and the problem on the right hand. This is another good example of using key number 4, leave yourself an out. When Ron passes the problem on the right-hand side, he waits for the traffic to clear in the right lane and then signals and makes a convenient lane change to move back into the right-hand lane. This helps prepare him to make an exit at the next freeway off-ramp. Preparing to exit, we see Ron look over to the right-hand side to see if any merging traffic might affect his path of travel. Ron checks the right lane to be sure no traffic is merging in with him. Then he signals and gently moves over to the right lane to prepare himself to take his exit. Ron also looks ahead for traffic lights or other problems in the future and may adjust his speed accordingly. As Ron exits the off-ramp, he's watchful for traffic on his right-hand side that might merge in front of him to enter the freeway he's just exited. Ron maneuvers himself into the first exit lane, or the first lane, and remains in this lane as he prepares to make the left turn at the next traffic light. Ron looks to the left as he begins to enter his left turn to be sure his path ahead is clear. While the driver of the vehicle ahead of Ron's truck looks for a gap to the right, Ron continues to look ahead. He stops the distance back to get a better view of the traffic turning from the right as well as the traffic coming from the rear. As Ron turns the truck, he turns wide to establish his lane position. Deciding to enter the freeway to the left, Ron makes a convenient lane change, moves to his left lane, and then begins to re-establish a 6-second following distance as he looks ahead and prepares to enter the freeway. As Ron enters the freeway, he looks to the left to find an opening where he can successfully merge into traffic. Ron notices the sign ahead showing the off-ramp in his future. So Ron checks his left side for any vehicles that might be trying to enter the lane in front of him to take the exit ramp in his future. As Ron prepares to exit the freeway, he checks his mirrors to notice what other vehicles might be around his vehicle. He then uses his indicator to signal his intention to exit as he approaches the off-ramp. Looking ahead as he exits the freeway, Ron notices an SUV making a right turn onto the roadway he's on. Ron continues to scan the upcoming intersection to the right-hand side, looking for any other traffic that may enter the roadway to impede his flow or create a potential conflict. Ron comes to a stop at the red light, purposely leaving about 2 car lengths of space ahead of him. This relates to key number 4, leave yourself an out. Even though he stopped at the light, Ron is aware that his space gives him a better view of the intersection he's about to enter. It also gives him the opportunity to maneuver out in case the vehicle in front stalls. As the vehicle ahead begins to enter the intersection, Ron scans it, establishing the place where he's going to be making the left turn in his future. Ron signals, looks to his left-hand side to be sure no one is entering his field of traffic, and looks into the turn in the direction he's beginning to head. Ron takes the outside lane and looks under the freeway on-ramp at the next traffic light. At the moment, that light is a fresh red, but Ron knows it's very shortly going to change to a fresh green. Ron stays in his right-hand lane, but he looks ahead often because he knows he's about to merge in with other traffic from the left-hand side. Ron makes a convenient lane change to move into the number 3 lane, getting away from any potential hazards that may be on the right-hand side. This is what we refer to as our lane of least resistance. Ron travels in the lane with the best visibility and the fewest potential hazards. As Ron looks ahead, he notices that the next traffic light is a stale green. There's traffic in the center median as well as traffic coming in from the right-hand side. He checks his mirrors and brakes early to slow his momentum ahead and conserve as much speed as possible. As Ron passes the row of stopped vehicles on his right-hand side, he takes extra care to look at their front tires and to look at the other drivers to see if they may be attempting to enter the space he's left in front of him. That relates to key number 5. Make sure they see you. He may also cover his horn at this point in case he needs to notify them of his presence. In this example, Ron is stopped at a red light with a good amount of space in front of his truck. He's done this on purpose as it relates to key number 4, leave yourself an out. As the traffic begins to move, Ron uses his trailer to block his right side and to protect his turning space. This prevents other vehicles from mistakenly moving up on his right-hand side and creating conflict as he enters the turn. In this example, we see 2 very different styles of driving. Watch the silver vehicle on Ron's right. This vehicle is in a big hurry and rushes up to the next traffic light where he'll need to stop. Ron, however, has used key number 1, aim high in steering, to look ahead and adjust his speed accordingly. Ron notices the light ahead is red and begins to slow his speed, knowing that he'll be able to pace the light and not come to a complete stop. Meanwhile, the silver vehicle on the right is forced to come to a complete stop. As we approach the next light, Ron faces the need to choose a point of no return. This is the spot at which it's no longer safe for him to stop, nor the vehicle behind his. Knowing that he has reached that point, Ron scans both directions and commits to the light. Looking down the road, Ron observes large packs of traffic in his future, as well as packs of traffic behind him. He notices the light at the next intersection has turned red, so he begins to brake early. Not only is he slowing his vehicle, he's using his brake lights to warn the vehicles behind him of his intentions to stop. Ron stops with good distance in front of him. Unfortunately, the red vehicle behind him decides to overtake him on the right side. As the light turns green and the vehicles begin to move, Ron hesitates slightly before going back on the accelerator and creates following distance in front of him. Where Ron is able to create space, visibility, and other options by braking early and hesitating before going through the light, the other vehicles around him needlessly rush to drive in a pack. It also takes the red vehicle quite a bit of time to catch up to where Ron is. Ron looks ahead, paces himself early, and doesn't have to come to a stop, while the other vehicles around him do. He's able to get through both this intersection and the next one without having to brake or interrupt his speed or interrupt his flow through light after light. By using the 5 keys of the Smith system, Ron is able to drive smoothly with good pacing, good visibility, and good options in case there is a hazard or conflict. While other drivers move in a pack from light to light, Ron drives smoothly between lights and with plenty of cushion space around him. He's able to predict traffic and hazards ahead in his future. He can predict the traffic lights and keep his momentum going, saving fuel and reducing wear and tear on his vehicle. This driving footage demonstrates that following the Smith System 5 keys doesn't slow you down. It just gets you where you're going more safely.
Wow, that was certainly enlightening.
It certainly was. And as you can see, experienced drivers aren't necessarily safe drivers. They've just grown so used to their bad habits and think their driving is fine until they're involved in a collision.
Even though some of the other drivers out there are inattentive or downright dangerous, and sometimes the roads are hazardous, there's a lot you can do as a driver to improve your chances of getting to your destination safely.
Right. It's not difficult. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing when you drive. It's mostly about being mindful of 3 driving objectives: space, visibility, and time. Meaning you have adequate space around your vehicle, so you have a place to maneuver to in case of an emergency, the visibility to see what's happening around you, and the time to react in case there is a problem.
If you get in the habit of following these 5 keys, you'll enjoy a safe, more relaxed, and more economical driving. Aim high in steering. Get the big picture. Keep your eyes moving, leave yourself an out, and make sure they see you.
Well, that's it for us. We hope that by learning and practicing the 5 keys, you'll be a safer and more confident driver.
Take care and enjoy the drive.